Have you ever come across a tiny copper coin lying forgotten in your drawer or mixed among your spare change, and wondered if it might actually be worth something astonishing? What if I told you that a seemingly ordinary 1946 wheat penny from the United States, often overlooked and dismissed as pocket change, could be worth an eye-popping $239, making it one of the most surprisingly valuable coins in American numismatic history? Welcome to our channel, where today we dive deep into the rich and thrilling backstory behind this humble yet historically significant coin that has sent collectors and enthusiasts into a frenzy. And if you're holding one right now, you might be holding a little piece of forgotten fortune that could change your perspective on old change forever. The 1946 wheat penny is far more than just another coin from the mid-20th century. It represents a post-war transition, an economic narrative, and an era of coinage that holds immense fascination among collectors, with various mint marks, conditions, and eras driving up its value far beyond its 1-cent denomination. Minted shortly after World War II ended, this particular penny carries the symbolism of a country in recovery, grappling with rebuilding its economy and honoring its traditions, which makes it incredibly meaningful in addition to being monetarily valuable. The typical 1946 wheat penny was struck at 3 different U.S. mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; and San Francisco, S. And while millions were produced, the true value lies in the specifics of each coin, its condition, luster, sharpness of strike, and perhaps most critically, the presence of rare minting errors or unusual varieties that collectors obsess over. These factors contribute to some 1946 wheat pennies being worth only a few cents while others command hundreds of dollars, and in specific verified cases, up to the much-rumored $239 threshold, especially when tied to historical significance, pristine uncirculated grades, or dramatic minting anomalies that occurred during production. So what makes a 1946 penny valuable? It often comes down to what collectors call red or red-brown designations in color, which indicate how well the coin has retained its original copper shine, along with its grade on the Sheldon scale. MS-60, MS-65, and even MS-67 examples can fetch exponentially more due to their rarity in high-grade condition. But it's the discovery of certain errors, like double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or repunched mint marks, that elevate the 1946 wheat penny into the realm of numismatic treasure, because these kinds of flaws are both difficult to find and extremely sought after in the coin collecting world. For instance, a 1946 wheat penny with a dramatic double die obverse can command hundreds of dollars due to its visual appeal and scarcity, while a San Francisco minted version with a repunched mint mark, RPM, or lamination error may skyrocket in value depending on demand and condition. There's even been documented cases where collectors discovered pennies with die cracks, cuds, or unusual planchet flaws that caused a bidding war at auction houses and online coin marketplaces, where savvy sellers and well-informed buyers know that even minor differences in minting anomalies can be the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one that's valued in the triple digits. Interestingly, the composition of the 1946 wheat penny also plays a role. It was struck using a bronze alloy, 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc, which was a return to the standard after the 1943 steel cent experiment during the war, making this coin part of a symbolic reversion to tradition while embracing the future. The fact that it followed the steel cent years gives it a sort of historic bookmark status, with many collectors desiring it to complete their mid-century sets, especially those aiming to build full Lincoln cent collections from 1909 to 1958, when the wheat design was retired. And speaking of design, the obverse of the coin features the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor D. Brenner, which had already become iconic by that time, while the reverse proudly displays 2 stylized wheat stalks, hence the nickname, wheat penny, and the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, that hearken to a simpler time in American economic language. Every element of this coin's design speaks of history, national pride, and artistic craftsmanship, and it's no wonder that its popularity among collectors has only increased with time, especially as high-quality specimens become harder to find due to decades of circulation, damage, or melting. There's also the human factor. Stories abound of people discovering 1946 wheat pennies in pocket change, in old piggy banks, at estate sales, or tucked inside inherited coin jars from grandparents, leading to unexpected windfalls and emotional connections to America's economic past. Some families have held on to them unknowingly, until a sharp-eyed collector noticed a potential gem and opened a gateway into the vibrant world of coin valuation, grading, and auctioning. For anyone curious about whether their 1946 wheat penny is valuable, start by examining its mint mark and checking for any unusual features with a magnifying glass. Does it have any doubling of the letters or numbers? Is it off-center? Is the color a lustrous red, showing minimal signs of wear? If so, it might be time to get it appraised or even professionally graded by a service like PCGS or NGC, as that could be the first step to turning your old coin into a collector's dream payday. High-grade examples of the 1946 wheat penny have routinely sold for $100 or more, and when unique characteristics are present, that price can jump to $200, $239, or even more depending on current collector demand and rarity. This is what makes coin collecting so fascinating. Every little variation matters, and the thrill of the hunt for a rare or valuable coin is what keeps people coming back, scouring their change and revisiting old boxes in the hope of finding that one elusive treasure. And in the case of the 1946 wheat penny, its consistent rise in value, along with its historical symbolism, attractive design, and the occasional striking error, have ensured that it remains one of the most talked about and desired pennies from the mid-1900s. It's the kind of coin that embodies the idea that big value can come in small packages, and that history isn't just found in museums. It's jingling in your pocket, hiding in a jar, or sitting quietly in your drawer just waiting to be rediscovered. So if you've got a 1946 wheat penny, treat it with care. It might just be worth far more than you think. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most fascinating and potentially lucrative coins, don't forget to like this video, share it with your fellow collectors, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories from the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and historic currency finds that could make your next penny worth big money. Next, have you ever held a coin so ordinary in appearance yet hiding a secret so extraordinary that its true worth could shock even seasoned collectors? Welcome to the fascinating journey of the 1954 wheat penny, a coin minted in the heart of San Francisco that's not just a 1-cent piece but a hidden gem in the vast landscape of American numismatics, with a jaw-dropping face value of $186 in the collector's market today. Yes, you heard that right. A single wheat penny that once bought a gumball now commands enough cash to fund a full shopping trip. It might sound unbelievable, but this coin isn't just currency. It's a time capsule, a historical artifact, and a masterpiece of minting errors, rarity, and demand that has taken the coin world by storm, dominating viral social media reels, sparking bidding wars at auctions, and becoming a sensation among collectors worldwide who dream of discovering one in their pocket change. So what makes this 1954 penny stand apart from the millions that were struck that year? It all begins with the intricate process at the San Francisco Mint, where over 96 million pennies rolled off the presses, but only a fraction carried the tiny anomalies and quirks that would ultimately skyrocket their value decades later: slight double dies, off-center strikes, weak or missing mint marks, planchet flaws, and rare brown or red colorations caused by chemical reactions or storage conditions that transformed this humble copper alloy coin into a golden opportunity for wealth. Collectors seek not only pristine mint-state examples but also those strange, flawed versions that make a coin unique, and the 1954 wheat penny delivers both, embodying the enduring legacy of Lincoln's profile on one side and those signature wheat ears on the reverse, both of which mark the pre-1959 era of U.S. coinage, a nostalgic and now increasingly lucrative chapter of American history. Add to that the surge in global interest in collectible U.S. coins, where rare pennies fetch eye-watering sums at online marketplaces and major auctions, and you start to see why this unassuming coin has made such an impact. The market for numismatics has exploded thanks to influencers, YouTubers, TikTokers, and expert appraisers who continue to unearth incredible stories behind coins like the 1954 telling tales of lucky finds in old jars, inherited piggy banks, dusty attic boxes, and pocket change from coffee shop transactions that led to overnight wealth. One particularly thrilling case involved a teenager who found a perfectly struck red-brown MS-67 1954 penny and ended up making headlines after it sold for nearly $10,000, turning his after-school hobby into a lifelong passion for rare coins. But it's not just the high-grade examples that command attention. Even circulated specimens with eye-catching features or errors can fetch hundreds of dollars. And when the face value is just 1 cent, that kind of profit margin is enough to light a fire under any aspiring collector. This phenomenon has caused many people to start combing through their coin jars and inspecting old pocket change with magnifying glasses and coin guides, hoping to strike copper gold in the form of a 1954 sweet penny. The feverish search is helped by the fact that the coin is relatively old, making it rare to find in circulation today, but not so old as to be completely out of reach, which makes it the perfect storm of accessibility and value. Meanwhile, the grading system established by professional services like PCGS and NGC adds credibility and clarity to the market, assigning numbers to coins that reflect their physical state and rarity, with top-graded 1954 pennies drawing massive attention from investors, collectors, and even celebrities who are dipping their toes into the rare coin world. This surge in value and interest isn't based purely on aesthetics or historical value. It's a supply and demand dynamic fueled by modern collecting culture, where scarcity, condition, and storytelling collide to create truly viral moments. And the story of the 1954 sweet penny has all the ingredients for virality. It's obscure but not unattainable, tied to American history, associated with real-world rags-to-riches cases, and carries the mystique of a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered by a lucky finder. As such, it continues to dominate social feeds and collector forums, with images and videos of shining copper cents posted alongside tales of outrageous sales, error coin breakdowns, and tips on what to look for if you think you might have one. Its historical backdrop is also worth noting. 1954 was a year of major transitions in America, from post-war optimism to technological advances, and this penny quietly captures a moment in time with every scratch, color tone, and imperfection. The S mint mark links it to the rich legacy of the San Francisco Mint, known for striking some of the most desirable coins in U.S. history, and the wheat reverse itself represents the last era before the Lincoln Memorial design took over in 1959. Add in the metal composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, a blend that is no longer used in modern coins, and you have a physical object that is not only rare but composed of elements with intrinsic historical and material value. People are waking up to the idea that their pocket change could hold more than face value. It could hold a story, a legacy, or even a fortune, and the 1954 sweet penny is a shining example of this revelation. Families are now gathering together to sort old coffee cans filled with coins, bringing generations closer while searching for treasure, and creating viral moments when a valuable coin is finally discovered, often with shouts of joy and disbelief captured on camera and shared with millions online. And beyond the monetary value lies the emotional attachment. Those who inherit coin collections from parents or grandparents often find that the 1954 penny was quietly sitting among common change, its importance overlooked, its value hidden until one curious search revealed its true worth. This brings an almost magical quality to the coin, reminding us that history is still alive in the objects we pass down, and that sometimes the past can reward us in very tangible, profitable ways. Experts advise anyone interested in finding or evaluating a 1954 penny to examine details like die cracks, repunched mint marks, the strength of strike, overall color, and luster, as well as signs of post-mint damage or cleaning, which can reduce value. It's a fine balance between rarity and preservation, and those lucky enough to find high-quality examples often go on to preserve them in airtight holders, send them for grading, and either add them to their personal collections or place them in auctions where bidders eagerly compete to claim a piece of history. From online marketplaces like eBay to prestigious numismatic auctions, the price trajectory of the 1954 penny has steadily climbed, driven not only by rarity but by storytelling, The idea that one small coin can hold such big meaning and even bigger value. And as long as there are collectors, historians, investors, and treasure hunters out there, the legend of the 1954 sweet penny will continue to grow, lighting up screens, feeding hashtags, and bringing a new level of excitement to coin collecting. If this incredible story of hidden value and historical significance has inspired you to check your change jar or revisit your childhood coin collection, make sure you stay informed and connected by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and joining us on this extraordinary journey into the world of valuable coins. You never know, the next viral discovery could be in your pocket right now. Next, today we are about to take you deep into the astonishing and little-known world of the 1951 wheat penny, a coin that many people overlook as just another old copper cent but which has been discovered to be worth up to $128 due to a fascinating mix of errors, minting mistakes, and numismatic oddities that make it far more than just a common coin. So buckle up and listen closely, because if you've got a jar of coins somewhere or a box of old pennies hiding in a drawer, you could be sitting on a surprising treasure and not even know it yet, as this episode dives into every nook and cranny of what makes the 1951 wheat penny so astonishingly valuable, so historically rich, and so irresistibly collectible among the growing community of coin hunters, collectors, historians, and even lucky individuals who stumbled into a fortune just by paying attention to the tiniest details on a little copper disc that was never supposed to be this rare or this talked about. And yet here we are in a world where numismatic value is spiking thanks to renewed interest in error coins, high-grade examples, and a growing awareness that even a single imperfection, anomaly, or mechanical glitch in the minting process could be worth its weight in gold, or at least several thousand times its original face value, because this penny, the 1951 wheat reverse Lincoln cent, minted primarily in Philadelphia but also struck in Denver and San Francisco, was one of the many post-World War II coins produced during a time of significant transition, and yet it carries more secrets and mysteries than its mass production numbers would suggest, as collectors have discovered through years of study that this coin is far from ordinary due to the sheer number of minor and major errors that can occur on a single specimen, which may include double die obverse where the details on Lincoln's face, date, or lettering appears shadowed or doubled due to die misalignment at the mint, which creates a visually striking and immediately valuable error, not to mention off-center strikes where the coin blank wasn't properly centered during the striking process, resulting in pennies where parts of the design are cut off, sometimes drastically so, making them prized for their uniqueness. And don't forget about repunched mint marks, also known as RPMs, where either the D for Denver or S for San Francisco was punched more than once slightly off alignment, creating a ghost-like shadow of the letter or a clear doubling effect. That turns a mundane coin into a rarity worth examining under magnification, which is what many collectors are now doing thanks to a rising trend in coin hunting videos and social media content where people explore old jars, estate sale finds, or inherited collections only to find these 1951 wheat pennies with quirks that demand attention and bring financial reward. And if you're wondering what else can make a 1951 penny worth more than its weight in copper, then let's talk about planchet flaws. Those rare occasions where the metal blank the coin was struck on had impurities, cracks, or lamination errors causing part of the surface to peel, blister, or flake off in ways that clearly distinguish it from regular circulation coins and command premium values at auctions or private sales, especially when preserved in high grade. And speaking of grades, the condition of the coin is absolutely crucial when we're talking about value, because a 1951 penny in good to very fine condition with errors might fetch a few bucks, but a mint state version, especially one graded MS65 or higher, can push well beyond the $128 mark if it features a rare error or maintains its original red copper luster that comes from years of proper storage in a climate-controlled, non-acidic environment away from human skin oils and humidity, which often degrade copper coins over time. And this is why collectors are willing to pay top dollar for well-preserved specimens with bright coloration and full detail, as these are considered both beautiful and historically significant. capturing the legacy of post-war American coinage and Lincoln's enduring image in a moment of machine-made imperfection that brings human fascination into every tiny detail, from the wheat stalks on the reverse to the crispness of the word liberty above Lincoln's shoulder. And speaking of details, it's important to know that there are even more obscure varieties like die chips and cuds, which are raised blobs or breaks in the coins. Design caused by cracks or missing pieces in the striking dies themselves, and these can occur on the date, the rim, the lettering, or anywhere across the coin, and are often very eye-catching because they create shapes and textures not normally found on regular coins. And these types of dramatic die breaks, especially large ones near the rim, are highly sought after by era coin collectors who specialize in weird and wonderful examples of the mint's mechanical slip-ups. And when you start stacking these possibilities together, a double die with an off-center strike, or a repunched mint mark on a lamination era coin, you can see how values start to add up quickly, transforming a penny that most people wouldn't look twice at into something that could fund your next vacation, car repair, or add significant value to your growing coin collection. And what's more, the market demand for coins like the 1951 wheat penny continues to grow as younger generations enter the hobby, inspired by viral videos, TikTok challenges, YouTube hauls, and even classroom coin projects that reveal how thrilling and financially rewarding this pursuit can be, which only increases the demand for rare and unique coins while simultaneously shrinking the available supply of high-grade or error-marked 1951 specimens. And this is why expert dealers and auction houses now pay close attention to any 1951 penny submitted for grading, because it could turn out to be one of those spectacular finds like the few known double die obverse examples that display doubling in the date and Liberty inscription, which when authenticated can easily command 3 figures or more. And when you consider that hundreds of thousands of these coins were lost to circulation, melting, or damage over the decades, it becomes clear that surviving era coins are becoming exponentially rarer each year, and their prices reflect that shift, with coin guides now regularly updating their value estimates, and even previously dismissed examples being re-evaluated under new authentication technology that allows for more accurate classification of subtle but valuable anomalies. And in a world where every cent counts, the 1951 wheat penny has proven that it can punch far above its weight class in terms of both historical intrigue and monetary worth. And we haven't even talked about some of the truly wild collector stories, like the guy who found a rare off-center 1951 penny stuck in the crack of an old hardwood floor while renovating his grandparents' house, or the high school student who brought one to a coin show as a curiosity only to have it appraised on the spot for over $100 due to a brilliant reddish copper tone and a well-centered strike with a visible die chip on Lincoln's eye, affectionately dubbed the Crying Lincoln error by online coin enthusiasts who now hunt for that exact variety with hopes of a similar payday. And it's moments like these that fuel the growing obsession with these tiny discs of metal that carry with them the echoes of an era, the quirks of mechanical imperfection, and the thrill of the hunt that turns ordinary people into treasure seekers. And this is why, if you haven't checked your change jar, inherited coin books, or even that old shoebox in the closet, now is the time, because the 1951 wheat penny is just waiting to reward those with sharp eyes, a little curiosity, and a willingness to explore the fascinating world of era coins, where even a tiny misalignment or surface bubble can be the ticket to turning 1 cent into 100 or more. And as more collectors wake up to the possibilities, these once forgotten coins are being plucked from obscurity and elevated to the ranks of historic artifacts, teaching us all that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones hiding in plain sight. So before you spend that old penny without a second glance, take a closer look, because it might be more than just a coin. It might be a story, a mistake worth money, or your next big discovery. And if you enjoyed learning about the incredible hidden value of the 1951 wheat penny and all the errors and mistakes that can transform it into a collector's dream, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for even more amazing coin stories that could turn your pocket change into real wealth. Next, we're diving deep into one of the most astonishing discoveries in the world of coin collecting, a simple 1945 wheat penny that has shocked collectors and investors alike by selling for as much as $312, not because of its metal content or its age alone, but because of the fascinating errors, mysterious minting anomalies, and incredibly rare characteristics that make this unassuming copper coin a jackpot find for those lucky enough to hold one in their hands. So let's journey back into the post-war era of the United States, where the mint was operating under unique pressures following World War II, where copper, steel, and other metals were being diverted or reallocated, where worn dies and shifting priorities led to some of the most extraordinary coinage mistakes in American numismatic history, starting with the incredible story of how the 1945 wheat penny, originally just worth a single cent, became a centerpiece in auctions and private collections due to features that most people wouldn't notice at a glance, such as double die obverse where the date and the word Liberty appear blurred, shadowed, or slightly offset, evidence that the die struck the planchet more than once out of perfect alignment, resulting in a coin where Abraham Lincoln's features, inscriptions, and the iconic date all have a ghost-like doubling that can only be properly seen with a magnifying glass, but once spotted can drive the value of that coin from mere pocket change to hundreds of dollars. And then there are the off-center strikes, some of the most visually striking and dramatic errors where the design appears partially off the coin due to the planchet being misaligned during striking, making these particular pennies rare and incredibly desirable, with coins showing 10% to 50% off-center strikes ranking among the most valuable, especially when the date remains visible. Combine a visible date with a dramatic strike and collectors will eagerly compete to outbid one another for a unique piece of minting history. Then we must consider the clipped planchets, another error seen in 1945 wheat pennies, where a small curved piece of the coin is missing due to a misfeed in the blanking machine, resulting in a clean crescent-shaped clip that's not damage, but a legitimate mint error that commands attention and increases a coin's worth significantly. But that's just the beginning, because among the more elusive and sensational varieties are the pennies that were struck on foreign planchets, a byproduct of the U.S. Mint's overseas coinage obligations in the mid-1940s, when planchets intended for Belgian, Dominican, or Philippine coinage sometimes got mixed with the Lincoln cent blanks, resulting in 1945 wheat pennies that were lighter in weight, slightly smaller in diameter, or even made of different alloys such as brass or a brass-steel blend. And when such an error is verified through metallurgical analysis, the value skyrockets, because not only is the coin rare in design, but it also tells a geopolitical story, a glimpse into the chaotic post-war world. And then we move on to the famous die cracks and cuds, minting flaws where breaks in the die cause raised lines or blobs of extra metal to appear on the coin, sometimes running through Lincoln's face or bust, or appearing as extra metal blobs in the lettering or along the rim. And these errors, while sometimes subtle, make the coin unique and fascinating to both new collectors and veteran numismatists, as they document the progressive breakdown of minting equipment and highlight the hard-working, often overstressed conditions of the wartime and post-war minting facilities. And speaking of the mint, we must not ignore the role of the different mint marks on the 1945 penny. Philadelphia coins were issued without a mint mark, while San Francisco and Denver coins bore the S and D, respectively. And although the Philadelphia issue was most common, errors from San Francisco, such as repunched mint marks, RPMs, where the S was stamped more than once in slightly different positions, have turned up in recent years and become incredibly valuable to collectors who specialize in error coins. Some of these repunched mint marks appear as shadows or doubling under magnification, and when authenticated, they add hundreds to the base value of the coin. With some known specimens cataloged in professional grading databases and auction records, while even more continue to surface in rolls of pennies or old family collections as people become more aware of what to look for. Which brings us to the topic of grading. Professional grading can make or break the perceived value of a 1945 wheat penny, with coins graded MS, mint state, 65 or above with no post-mint damage and featuring one or more of the errors we've discussed, easily fetching over $300. While ungraded or worn versions might sell for less unless the error is extremely dramatic, and the condition of the coin plays a critical role, as higher-grade examples preserve the finer details of the design, allowing numismatists to study the error more clearly and increasing desirability among collectors. And what makes the 1945 wheat penny even more appealing is its historical context. It was minted at the very end of World War II, during a time of both national turmoil and transition, where materials were scarce, labor was changing, and the country was moving from a war economy to a peacetime one, which means that any coin produced during that time carries with it a symbolic value far greater than its physical form, becoming a small piece of tangible history and a representation of America's resilience. And this makes collectors not only value the coin for its rarity and mistakes, but also for the story it tells. And as awareness spreads through social media, YouTube channels, auction houses, and online collector forums, more people are pulling out their jars of old pennies and scrutinizing them under magnifying glasses and USB microscopes in search of these elusive gems, because it's not just about having a rare coin, it's about discovering a hidden treasure that was overlooked for decades, sitting in an attic or drawer, forgotten until someone realizes that a subtle curve, a faint double, or an extra blob of metal means their humble penny is a rare era coin, worth hundreds if not thousands of times its face value. And this awareness has fueled a new generation of coin hunters and hobbyists who treat the 1945 penny as one of the prime candidates for profitable era hunting, and stories have emerged of young collectors buying penny rolls from banks or estate sales and stumbling across rare double-die specimens, or dramatic off-center strikes, and suddenly realizing they're holding a coin worth $250 to $312 or more. Especially if authenticated by trusted grading services such as PCGS or NGC, which further increases its liquidity and credibility in collector markets. And then there are the environmental effects on the coin's appearance. Coins that have aged well and retained their original red or red-brown coloration are considered more valuable than those that have turned dark or corroded due to improper storage, as color can indicate the level of original mint luster, and this is particularly true for era coins where the preservation of the mistake is as important as the mistake itself. And then there's the psychological aspect, the thrill of finding a penny with a rare error, the excitement of being part of a community that treasures history, and the financial incentive of knowing that a single coin could be sold for hundreds of dollars all contribute to the viral and emotional appeal of the 1945 wheat penny, transforming it from spare change to center stage in documentaries, blogs, collector meetups, and educational resources aimed at teaching the next generation of numismatists. And the supply and demand dynamic means that as more of these rare era coins are discovered and certified, the competition to acquire them becomes more intense, and collectors will pay a premium for coins with authenticated provenance, full historical documentation, and verified minting anomalies, which explains why a simple 1945 wheat penny that most people would toss in a change jar has become a focal point for serious collectors, historians, and investors alike. And as technology improves and detection tools become more sophisticated, even more nuanced errors will be discovered on 1945 pennies: microscopic die gouges, planchet laminations, incorrect planchet types, and even phantom impressions from previously struck coins known as brockage errors, all of which are incredibly rare and highly valuable, making this coin a numismatic treasure chest waiting to be explored. And all this means that if you've got an old box of coins from your grandparents, or if you enjoy the thrill of sifting through circulation pennies from banks or flea markets, don't overlook the 1945 wheat penny, because its potential value isn't just about its age, it's about its story, its flaws, its uniqueness, and the ever-growing demand for historically significant era coins. And the more you learn to identify these features, the greater your chances are of striking it rich with what others may consider a common cent. But what you now know could be a $312 marvel hiding in plain sight. So thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysterious and valuable world of the 1945 wheat penny and want more surprising coin stories, discoveries, and expert insights on rare currency, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another video on the channel where we turn ordinary change into extraordinary treasure. Last, we're diving deep into a fascinating story behind a humble yet shockingly valuable piece of American numismatic history, the 1958 wheat penny, a coin that might seem like any other copper cent to the untrained eye, but under closer inspection reveals a range of errors and production quirks that elevate its worth far beyond its face value of 1 cent. With some of these rare error examples fetching up to $96 or more in the coin collecting world, making it one of the more sought-after pieces for collectors and hobbyists alike who are constantly on the hunt for error coins that slip through the cracks of the U.S. Mint's quality control. And in the case of the 1958 Dewey penny, the historical backdrop of its final year of production for the Lincoln Wheat reverse design combined with a range of die errors, misstrikes, doubling anomalies, and planchet flaws makes this particular coin a subject of endless fascination and value speculation, so let's explore in full detail all the reasons this specific penny has garnered such attention and monetary value from collectors across the country and even internationally. Starting with the fact that 1958 marked the final year the U.S. Mint produced the Wheat reverse design before transitioning to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959, which inherently gives the 1958 issues a last of an era type of appeal that boosts collector demand, and while the Philadelphia Mint released a small quantity of 1958 pennies, the Denver Mint, denoted by the D Mint mark, produced a considerably larger quantity, which might lead some to believe that the coin isn't particularly rare. But rarity isn't always about total mintage, it's about how many coins from that mintage possess notable errors and remain in collectible condition today. And that's where the 1958 Dewey penny starts to shine, because while many examples were made, very few were struck with the types of errors that now make them extremely valuable to collectors, including but not limited to double die obverse, repunched mint marks, die breaks, off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, and lamination errors, each of which presents a unique twist in the production process that deviates from the standard minting procedure, beginning with the most famous and highly sought-after error on this coin, the double die obverse, where doubling can be observed most frequently on the words Liberty and In God We Trust, sometimes extending to the date as well, and this occurs when the die that strikes the coins has been imprinted with a doubled image during the hubbing process, essentially stamping the design twice at slightly different angles or positions, resulting in that doubled effect which, depending on its clarity and severity, can dramatically increase a coin's value. And while most collectors are aware of the famously rare 1958 Philadelphia double die obverse, which only exists in a few known examples, lesser-known double die varieties also appeared at the Denver Mint in 1958, albeit in subtler forms that still command premium prices, especially when authenticated by major coin grading services such as PCGS or NGC, whose encapsulated certification adds legitimacy and market value. And aside from doubling, many 1958 Dewey pennies were affected by repunched mint marks, known as RPMs, where the D mint mark was punched more than once into the working die in slightly different positions, causing a shadow or ghost image of the mint mark which becomes visible under magnification and sometimes even to the naked eye. And depending on how strong or dramatic the repunching appears, these RPMs are given specific designations by error catalogers, often labeled with numbers like RPM 001 or RPM 002, and collectors actively seek these designations, paying much more than the base value, often around $20 to $96 or higher depending on the coin's condition and the clarity of the RPM. And then there are coins struck off center, a common minting error where the blank planchet is not properly aligned when struck by the dies, resulting in a coin that is missing part of its design on one edge and perhaps has a crescent of blank copper, with off-center strikes of more than 10% fetching higher values, especially when the date remains fully visible, as that ensures the error coin is identifiable and can be properly attributed to 1958D. And similarly, die cracks and die breaks are another source of value, formed when the striking die begins to fracture from wear, producing raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface that trace where the crack occurred on the die. And these errors, often called cuds, when they occur on the rim, are sought after for their uniqueness and the insight they provide into the minting process, and collectors appreciate these small failures in machinery as markers of time and use, sometimes paying hefty premiums for dramatic or well-placed cracks, especially if they intersect important design elements like Lincoln's portrait, the date, or lettering. And then we have clipped planchets, which happen when the blank metal sheets from which pennies are punched have overlapping or incomplete edges, resulting in a coin that is missing a curved section from its edge. And when this kind of error occurs and is verified as genuine, as opposed to post-mint damage, It can greatly increase the desirability of the piece, especially when paired with other errors, and we cannot forget lamination errors, which involve impurities or flaws in the metal mixture during the rolling process, causing layers of the coin's surface to flake or peel away, often in a dramatic fashion. And while these may look like damage to a casual observer, trained numismatists can identify them as legitimate mint-originated flaws, giving them significant value. And all these types of errors become even more desirable when found in higher-grade condition, meaning coins that haven't circulated heavily and still retain sharp detail, luster, and original mint red color, because most sweet pennies that were used in commerce show heavy wear, darkened surfaces, and nicks from years of use. But uncirculated or mint-state examples with errors are far rarer, and these are the coins that bring prices up toward the $96 mark and sometimes even beyond at auction or among competitive collectors. Particularly when two or more errors occur on the same coin, which is known as a multiple error example and is especially treasured in the collecting world, and the historical context of the 1958 wheat penny's production year adds to its mystique, because it marks the swan song of the wheat design that had been used since 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's centennial birth anniversary, and when it was retired in 1958 in favor of the new Lincoln Memorial reverse. Collectors began paying more attention to late-issue wheat pennies as historical artifacts, and the Denver Mint, known for its generally high quality and production output, produced billions of coins, but its error rate was never zero, and with aging equipment and the pressure of large-scale coinage in the late 1950s, it's no surprise that a number of flawed yet fascinating coins made it into circulation, and many of these error coins ended up in pocket change, bank rolls, or coin jars, often unnoticed for decades until dedicated hobbyists started searching with magnifiers, sorting through piles of pennies looking for RPMs, die breaks, doubling, or other anomalies. And now, in the age of online marketplaces and widespread coin education, more and more people are discovering that these ordinary coins from their childhood or inheritance can actually hold significant value if the right errors are present, and that's exactly why the 1958 wheat penny has become such a sensation in the world of numismatics. It represents the perfect storm of historical transition, minting anomalies, collector nostalgia, and the thrill of discovering something rare in an otherwise ubiquitous item, and stories abound of lucky individuals who found such error coins in old penny jars or inherited coin collections, only to discover later that their small copper coin was worth far more than they ever imagined, sometimes fetching up to $96 or more from collectors hungry to add error examples to their portfolio. And that's why we always emphasize how important it is to carefully check any 1958 wheat pennies you might come across, using tools like jeweler's loupes or USB microscopes to identify subtle errors like min-mark doubling, surface cracks, or texture changes that might indicate lamination flaws, because even if a coin doesn't initially appear valuable, a small but significant error can elevate its worth tremendously. Especially in today's competitive collector market where even marginal errors are being snapped up quickly, and as always, coins that are professionally graded and encapsulated will tend to sell for higher prices due to buyer confidence. So if you believe you have a 1958 penny with potential, it may be worth submitting it to a grading service for evaluation, especially if you see signs of doubling, repunching, or other anomalies we've discussed, and given how broad the error types are for this year and min-mark. There's always the possibility that new varieties are waiting to be discovered and cataloged by dedicated numismatists, which makes this field endlessly fascinating and potentially profitable for those willing to invest the time and effort into the hunt. So whether you're a seasoned collector, a beginner, or just someone who found a wheat penny and change and got curious, remember that coins like the 1958 wheat penny are more than just relics of monetary history.